Okay, good afternoon, everybody. How was lunch? Was it good? Yes. I particularly enjoy the student involvement in the student band. You'll see that at every meal. Again, you'll see a student in just a moment introduce our next keynote. We thought it's very important to have students engaged in the conference and gives them an opportunity to showcase their talents. So without further ado, I want to introduce Mr. Eric Washington. Eric is a student at our Midtown campus, which is down in St. Pete, probably about 20, 25 minutes from here. Eric is pursuing a help desk support specialist certificate. His career goal is to become a computer technician. He is in his first semester in the pitch program at the Midtown campus. Eric is a graduate of the Men in the Making mentoring program. And I just had a few minutes to meet Eric, and he is so passionate about that program and the impact that that program has had in his life. He's now a mentor, so sharing the wealth of knowledge that he learned and the passion that he has for that program with other students, rising students. His favorite hobby is genealogy. So Eric, come on up and let's introduce Dr. Williams, okay?
Good afternoon, everybody. Once again, my name is Eric Washington, and I represent the Midtown campus. And I want to thank you for having me today. Tonjua Williams, PhD, became St. Petersburg College's 7th president on July 3rd, 2017. A St. Petersburg native, Dr. Williams began her tenure with the college in 1986, rising through the ranks in a variety of academic and administrative roles. Prior to becoming president, Dr. Williams was senior vice president for student services from 2013 to 2017. She has served in nearly every area of the college: provost, associate provost, director of special programs, program coordinator, academic advisor, recruiter, senior accounting clerk, and adjunct facility. Dr. Williams earned a PhD in higher education administration from Baylor University, a master's degree in counselor education from University of South Florida, and bachelor's degrees in business administration and humanities from Clearwater Christian College. In 2016, Dr. Williams was awarded the prestigious Aspen Presidential Fellowship for Community College Excellence, making her part of the inaugural class of the Aspen Presidential Fellows. She is a graduate of Leadership Tampa Bay, Leadership St. Pete, the Chancellor's Leadership Program, and the Executive Leadership Program at the University of Florida. So please, everybody, join me as we welcome Dr. Tonjua Williams.
Good afternoon. I don't know, some of those desserts you guys had might keep you sleepy here. So we're going to try to really keep you engaged, and I'm going to be very transparent about my life and how I grew up here in St. Petersburg, Florida, in Pinellas County, and talk to you a little bit about creating the community of care and why we have to do businesses different as we do this work in higher education. There's a lot of friends that I have in the audience, so just don't crack on my pictures when you see them. They are truly me, Miss Crumbly. Don't pick on me. So I want to thank Eric for the warm introduction. I met him a couple of years ago at a Men in the Making graduation. And Men in the Making is a program that really wraps their arms around young men who may not have the champion at home to help them be successful. And he received a lot of love, support, and guidance, and he is making the best of what he has learned by giving back. So Eric, thank you for what you do. Appreciate it. So let's talk about where it all began. Neither of those pictures are me, so I just want y'all to know that. And don't pick on my mom, okay? She might not have her hair done that day, but anyway, this is my mom on my right, and then that is my grandmother, my grandmother's dad, and my mom. And this is where it all began, with my mom, a 17-year-old mother, with me. And she had to learn how to be a mom at a young age. But the one thing that I recall her telling me that she stated was, when she saw me, she thought that I would be great. And she constantly stated that. And so what happened in elementary school? Now that's me. And I really had to find some pictures because my mother did not like combing hair. So I had to really find some that looks like my hair was combed. But I attended a school called Fairyland, which was basically for African American children. I was born at Mercy Hospital, which was for African Americans, on what used to be called the Deuces, which is now called Midtown. There's a hospital there that's now called the Johnny Ruth Clark Center, used to be Mercy Hospital. And so I grew up in the Midtown area, and back then, children could run around, go places, do things, and not really worry about things happening to them because they were in the community of care with a lot of people that wrapped their arms around them to make sure things were going on. This was the era when other people could spank you who were not your parents. I don't know if that happened in your neighborhood, but I got a few of those every now and then. And in my home, when you get one, you get two, because if someone else has to discipline you, they're going to call your mom and tell her, and then she has to finish it up. And so that's me in elementary school. I looked for some middle school pictures, and there are none. And let me tell you why. Because my middle school life was horrible. In middle school, once I got near the 8th grade, my mom had married a different guy who wasn't my dad, and things didn't go so hot. And so for me, it was a miserable time because that person she married was not a very caring person, especially towards me because I was not his child. And many of you may not have ever experienced that, but if you do, it will forever change your life if you let it. And so when I looked at my middle school pictures, most of them I scratched through my face. So I didn't bring those for you to see because it was a very rough time. But then he left, and we partied, and we had a good time. I remember my mom telling us we didn't have to go to school, and we bought cake, and we celebrated. Because the life that we were living was so miserable and so difficult that we were not happy. We felt like we were walking on eggshells. But during that time, my mother kept telling me, we are going to get through this. We are going to be okay. This is not going to be the end of our lives. As a child watching negative things happen to your mom, you're thinking, how crazy can you be? Why are you still here? What are you getting out of this? Why don't you just leave? And she didn't leave because he left. And we were very, very grateful. Then I went to high school. My high school years were much better because I had a loving parent, one parent in the home, who was treating me well. Everything was going pretty much okay until we got to the 10th grade and we found out that my stepfather, who was supposed to pay the mortgage, decided to stop paying. And we came home and all of our clothes were on the front lawn, or what was left. We were evicted. Now you would think, man, you should just crawl in a hole and die. You should give up. You should quit. You know what my mother said? We'll get through this. It's gonna be okay. I got this. It's gonna work out fine. I'm like, no, you don't. Look at where we are. Look at what's happening. And she said, you worry about school, you let me worry about this. I have this. You do school. And she made us go to school, and it was 4 of us. It was her and my brother and sister and me, and we were living in a 1-bedroom with my grandmother for almost a year. I don't know what you can imagine. My brother was going nuts because he had nowhere to go, no one to help, and we were on our own. But when I went to Bogaciga High School, I went as if everything was fine. I continued to go to classes, didn't have a lot, but life was good. It was hard, it wasn't easy, there were a lot of secrets, but life was good. So this picture that you see up here is actually the bleachers of one of our high school pep rallies, and you'll see this came straight from our yearbook. For it is through each other that we have grown. We are a part of all we have known. And that's the world we live in. When people come to your class, people come to your office, people come to your area, they're bringing all that they've ever known with them. They're not bringing what you think they know. They're only bringing what they really and truly know. And so many times you think, gosh, they're 19, they ought to have this, right? They're 25, they should have, no. They're bringing with them all they have. Our jobs is to make sure that we create a culture for them to grow and thrive and catch up on things that they may not know, on things that they may not have experienced from a family that can't help them get the experience or talk to them about what they should do next. So when I went to high school, there was a lot of people in my village who didn't know me from anywhere except one lady, and that's the lady at the end over here, Miss Nolan. She was one of our neighbors. She lived 2 doors down from us, and she used to tell my mama everything every day. Before I could get home, my mother would know, I heard you flipped your mouth at someone. I heard you did this. I heard you did that. Because a part of the village and the work that we're doing right now, it takes all of us. And it takes us doing things that are not normal, that are different, that are not what you're used to. Sometimes it takes us stepping out of our box and doing something different. The lady at in the middle, Miss Rosa Johnson, was the meanest lady I ever met in my life. And she taught us typing. And she would literally pop your hands if you can't get to 60 words a minute. I could not stand her, literally. And I didn't realize that she was really a part of my village until I saw her at my inauguration. She came and she walked up to me and I'm like, Miss Johnson? And she was like, yes. I said, how you doing? And you know what she said? That typing helped you, didn't it? And it did. Because I can do my work quickly. I can type very well. But her whole purpose in my life was to keep me straight and keep me moving. Mr. Anders, he was not the principal, but he was almost like a dad away from dad for me. And he stayed on top of me. Miss Daniels, she's a staff assistant, and she had me pick up the daily rolls every day. I would be the person to go every class and grab the rolls and bring them back because she thought I had something in me to do something different. She wanted to help me keep my mind off of my home life. She knew my home life. She knew what I was going through. And she wanted to make sure that I stayed engaged. If we're going to work with our students, we see them. We see the ones who come in who may look a little disheveled. We see the ones who come to our office may smell. Help them. Help them. Stop judging. Because just because they come from a bad background doesn't mean they're not smart. It does not mean they can't learn. It does not mean they're not valuable. But what happens to us, we think because they don't have, they can't do. And that's wrong. Because the majority of them, they have the passion behind the grind to keep going. For them to show up and walk across the threshold takes an awful lot. The last thing they want is for us to not believe that they can't learn. The last thing that they will want to hear is that they can't grow. The last thing I wanted to hear at Bogaciga High School was that I could not do it. because one woman on this end told me I could, constantly telling me, I can't help you. I can't do the financial aid app for you. I can't figure it out for you, but you better make it happen. I can't help you, but you figure it out. So those students who come to you and ask for help, you may be the only help they get. You may be it. That's it. So don't turn them away. Find a way to be different, to be disruptive. Shake it up a little bit. Show a little care, because you invest in those students. If you're going to invest to help them do better, not to harm them and make them not like education and feel like they can never learn or never do. Now, these people were nice to me, but sometimes they were mean. Sometimes they were stern. Sometimes they were clear that I was wrong, and they held me accountable. So being helpful doesn't always mean you let us get away with everything. That's not helpful. You have to hold us accountable as well. So accountability is very important. So then I graduated, and I thought I had arrived. And my mother said, so, what you finna do now? You either gonna get a job, go to the military, go to college. You can't stay here. You gotta keep moving. You gotta keep it going. The parents of children who are struggling, who come from very poor backgrounds, who come from tough situations, they have dreams for their kids. They want them to be successful. And believe it or not, those kids want to be successful, they just don't know how. So instead of us being dream killers, we need to be dream builders. And we need to talk to them and help them understand, why are you here? What is it you want to do? And how can I help you get there? I think that's very important. This picture is important to me because we're standing at our church. That was another one of my safe havens, a part of my neighborhood, was the folks at my church. As a matter of fact, when we were evicted, it was the church that got us a place to stay. The people at the church came together to provide help. If a student is struggling at your college, do they know where to go to get help? And then is the help there? Because so many times we think that we're not supposed to be social workers. Oh, if I help them, I'm a teacher. I teach. Who are you going to teach if they don't have anywhere to lay their heads? Who are you going to teach if they have no transportation? How are you going to teach if they're hungry in your class and can't stay awake to even listen to you? Who are you going to teach? A good part of the community college is to serve the community. Internal community and external. That includes your students. If you think you're too good to serve them, get ready to close your doors. Because I can tell you more and more are coming who are struggling. And some of them may not look like they're struggling. This is, I went to Clearwater Christian College. Now, I ended up at Clearwater Christian College because that was the first place that I applied, and that's the only place. That was it. It was no rhyme or reason. As a matter of fact, it wasn't accredited at the time. I didn't know anything about accreditation. I didn't know anything about financial aid and taking out loans. I didn't know anything about a private school and a public school. And I mean, I was paying triple the amount for education, not really doing my homework and not having anyone to tell me how to do it. But the thing about my family is they were glad I went. That was all they cared about. She in college. Oh, she in college. You know, and I didn't know about this school. When I went, they're very conservative, so the girls had to wear dresses 6 inches below your knee, and you couldn't single date till you were 21. I went to college at 17. It was just because of my birthday. It had nothing to do with smarts, okay? I just want y'all to know that. But when I got there, the culture was so strict. And I came from Boca Ciega High School, an urban high school where you could wear shorts and, okay, I mean, you had to wear pantyhose to have dinner. Any meal, you had to wear pantyhose. I'm like, what kind of place is this? And, you know, I would call my mom and say, why am I here? She's, girl, you need to go to college. And so I stuck it out. In my second year, they did become accredited, my second or third year. Why is that important? I did not know if I attended a school that was not accredited, that those credits won't transfer to another school if I wanted to go farther. I did not know that the school was so conservative that I could not really be who I was. I mean, at that time, we could listen to country music and Christian music. Well, I grew up on rap. And we would get demerits. You get 21 a year. If you get 22, you get kicked out. I was always around 20. Constantly trying to fit in. But there were some people who worked with me to help me fit in. This is a picture one of my classmates drew. And in the picture, it talks about, this was the gang I hung around with. And you'll see me near the end, and you'll see me by a phone with a long cord. Now, those of you who are young, y'all don't understand phones used to have cords. But we had a pay phone outside, and that's where I spent my time. Guess who I was talking to? My mom. And so up here it says, hey, mama, and it says Tonjua, always on the phone with her mother. Then they put a pain, a real trip. Now, let me tell you why. It was because I was still the girl from Bogey. So, yeah, I spoke my mind. I challenged everything that was there. And they struggled with me at first because they're like, why doesn't she want to write about this? I said, you told me I could pick any book. I chose Langston Hughes. We don't think Langston Hughes is a good writer. Well, that's who I'm doing mine on. It's not in the rules. I'm going to write. I learned so much about myself at Clearwater Christian College, about things that I could do that I didn't think I could do. But there were people who stood in the gap for me. So I'm going to share with you. Miss Johnson was the Dean of Women's. I called her Mama J. She didn't like it at first because she wanted to be called Dean Johnson. And then everybody else started calling her Mama J. And so she started really, really liking that. And then this is a friend of mine, Pam Hines. This is her parents. And they did not work at the college, but everything they did for their daughter, they did for me. So, my first plane ride, her mother flew down from New Jersey to pick me up because I wouldn't get on the plane. Because I'm like, y'all crazy, I'm not getting on that plane. She flew me back to New Jersey. They took me to Philly, New York, all over the place, the things that I've never seen in my life. They exposed me to that. And then she flew me back, and then she flew back home. And they paid for that. And my mother was like, I don't think you should get on that plane. I'm telling you, she should not get on that plane. Then when we got to New Jersey, the world was different. They lived so far from their neighbors that they drove to each other's homes. They didn't lock their house. The doors weren't locked. They left their keys in their cars. Now, I'm coming from St. Pete, South St. Pete. I'm like, I can't sleep in this house. You got to lock the door. I'm sorry. They had neighbors who would just come in the house and get what they want. I'm home one morning, woman comes in, I said, what you doing in here? She said, what are you doing in here? And I'm like, I'm calling them. You shouldn't be in their house. She came to get eggs, and her mom said, we let people come in. I'm like, oh, y'all are crazy. I can't do this. I attended their church, first African-American in their church, and everybody's looking at, there's a black girl in the bathroom. They just weren't used to that. So they learned a lot about me, and I learned a lot about them. And then I got to my junior year, and I was going to get kicked out of school. I didn't have enough money. There are two people who helped me. It was the Calliers from Georgia Swimming Pools, and then it was Peter Traversa. He was my business administration instructor, and he knew I didn't know what I was doing. And I got a call from Dean Spots. He says, you need to come up and meet with the trustees, and they told me I was getting kicked out, and I said, okay, and I'm packing my things, and I get another call saying someone paid your tuition. It was Mr. Traversa. He won't tell me, but it was him. I know it was him. And so sometimes standing in the gap also means giving time, talent, and treasure. So after college, this is me. I was a cheerleader. And you know, our uniforms were down like to here. So you really couldn't jump, you know, because they were just so heavy. But I did get involved. And so when I talked about the Hines, that's their daughter, Pam. And that's one of my friends, Karen. These were my college friends. I had a lot of friends at home. Some of them are in the room who knew a lot about the Harris family and what we were going through. But I can tell you that my mom, Willie, was involved every step. She couldn't help me, but she motivated me and encouraged me and kept me moving. My buddies in college, they exposed me to a whole different life. If you come to college and nothing changes in your life, that college is not doing what they're supposed to do. I'm sorry. If I come to SPC and I'm the same way when I left, then we missed the mark. It's supposed to help change your life. So after college, I went back, and I actually went back to working where I was before I went to college as an accounting clerk for Georgia Swimming Pools, which was a swimming pool company that picked me up when I was a teenager and just let me work there during the summers. And so Ms. Collier, who owned the company, says, you know, you got a degree, and I'm not going to be able to help you. This is the best you're going to get. And you need insurance and all of that. You need to get a regular job. I said, okay, where should I go? She said, go to SPJC. I said, okay. So I came on out, and I applied. 2 days later, I got a job as a financial aid accounting clerk. And I want to show you, this is financial aid. And I might have weighed $105, maybe 100 pounds then. But we were at St. Petersburg Junior College, and here is how important getting this job was to my family. I kept my first paycheck, making $6.11 an hour. So you know those families who come to your graduation and they have an entourage, like 30 people deep? That was my family. They all came. When I got this check, everybody was like, wow. You know, and I'm like, it's less than $200, you know, but it was my check. When I came home and had an insurance card and showed my mom, she goes, that's awesome, honey. Now you got to go back to school. You've got to keep going. That's awesome. You have insurance. And being the first in my family to get a college degree was a big deal, and they came in droves. Trust me. It was very embarrassing. But they were there. So after that, I'm working at St. Pete College for about 2 years, and my husband finally proposed, and we got married, and we're still married. Don't think about the spouse's impact on your success. Trust you me, you do what you do because they do what they do. And so I have to say, in my village includes my husband, because he was unselfish and willing to let me just do whatever I wanted to try. He's like, look, I have my degree. Go ahead. You want to keep going? I ain't going back. I'm done. And I'll help you with whatever you want to do. And so he has been very instrumental. But there are people at the college who helped me as well. I'll tell you, the first person was Willie Felton. The second person was Myrtle Williams, because they were willing to hurt my feelings. And they hurt them bad. If you're going to work at a college, strive to grow, strive to change. If you're doing what you're doing now that you did 10 years ago, you are out of date. You are stale and unuseful. I'm sorry. These individuals pulled me aside to tell me what I could be, but to tell me that I'm not going to be that because of what I was doing. They were willing to step on my toes, hurt my feelings, and help pull me through. You know, at a college, employees can grow and learn and thrive and move throughout the organization. You won't move throughout the organization if you can't exhibit the willingness to learn and create a community of care to pull other people as well. Now, I'm going to tell you what I did. My first 6 months, I got put back on probation because I was running my mouth. I thought I had a degree, I must really be something, right? And would challenge my bosses and tell them they don't know what they're doing, or if somebody said something to me, I was so curt and rude. And so I got put on probation. I walked away from the job. I got in my Toyota Tercel and I went home. And I told my mom what happened. Before I talked to my mom, I talked to Myrtle Williams, and I asked her, did I have an attitude? And she said, yes. I talked to Willie Felton, and he said, yes. So if my mother told me I had an attitude, it must be true. And she said, well, baby, I trained you to be strong, but not stupid. And so I came back out to the college to meet with Dr. Cutler to see if he'll let me keep my job. And he made me sit for 3 hours outside his office. And he walked past me, back and forth. And I'm like, okay, that's it. As soon as I was getting up to leave, he's like, Tonjua, Get in here. And so in my mind, I'm saying, I'm not going to apologize because I wasn't wrong, but I was, I shouldn't have done it, but I did say what I said, but I'm not going to apologize. I got to find a way to get through this without apologizing. I just don't want to say I'm sorry. So he says, well, what do you have to say? And I'm like, it was totally inappropriate, my behavior. It's just, it will never happen again. And he says, well, I'll give you another chance. And I'm like, I didn't say I'm sorry. Because what happened, I started a job and nobody trained me. So all I had to do was make mistakes and learn that way. If you're bringing on a new employee, train them so they can learn the job and not by mistakes. And back then, we didn't have all those computers. People were sending me paper back with X's on it and all kinds of stuff. And I was working in financial aid. You're dealing with folks' money. So they get mad because their check didn't come because you made an error. And so make sure you talk to them and work with them and give them the training. So then after that, I went through several jobs at the college, and I've had several mentors and colleagues and people who helped me, but I still had my village at home. I still had faculty members who helped me along the way. We're still friends. I still get advice, even as president. I still talk to people and hear my folks and hear what I could do better, what's wrong. People think being a college president means you the big dog, right? It doesn't. It really means you're a servant. It really means you're there to help your team do what we're trying to do. It does not mean that you are so big and mighty and you're all that in a bag of chips. That's not what leadership is about. Leadership is about serving and building other leaders. That's what it's about. I can push my team, I can encourage my team, I can empower my team, but I cannot run my team. They will have to run themselves. So I went back and got those degrees. After that, my mother died when I got my master's. And we had 6 weeks with her. We knew we had 6 weeks. She knew she had 6 weeks. And I'm thinking, what am I going to do with the last 6 weeks of my main support? Is getting ready to leave. What am I going to do and say? You know what she said? She said, you're going to live on the things I've given you. I've given you everything you need to know. I've shared everything that I feel you need to know. You're going to live off of that because it's going to work for you. The only request I have is that you don't sell your soul to get it. Something good is going to happen with you. Don't sell your soul to get it. Don't owe anybody anything to do it. But make sure that you're helping other people grow and move forward. That is why I focus so hard on creating a community of care. There's 4 C's to that. One is culture. You got to have the right culture at your institutions. If things are not going well, you need to figure out how to fix it. So for my team, the first year we did a 360 on the president, and I think I had about 70 people at the college who evaluated my leadership. And these are not people who are direct reports to me. Some are, but not all. And you want to know how good you are? Have somebody do a 360 on you. You'll find out the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The second thing we've done, just last week, we did a climate survey with all of our employees to be able to tell us how they really feel coming to work at SPC and what it is we really need to do to make this a true community of care, even for the employees. Because the employees need to be happy about their world as well. It's one thing to try to help students, but if the employees aren't happy, the students won't be, I can guarantee you that. So culture is one, making sure that this culture is good for the students, but also the employees. Number 2 is communication. SPC is a big engine, and rumors run like a bad child. I'm telling you, they just go all over the place. But we have to be open, transparent, and communicative. And the communication has to go both ways. It can't be the president is the only communicator. The president has to listen as well and get the communication from the team. But everything needs to be open. I mentioned to the college family last week, no one should go to a grocery store and find out what's happening at the school that they work at. They should know from the school what's going on and not something else. Collaboration. We are too competitive, even internally. One department won't help another department because they don't want their department to shine faster than theirs. They know what the solution could be, but they won't help because they don't want to help somebody else do something bigger, faster than them. That is not going to help the college move forward. We need to be all in. And I talked to my team about that last week, about who's all in. Because if I'm going left and the team's going right, the boat ain't going nowhere but in circles or a standstill. So you've got to be collaborative, which means you have to be open-minded. You have to be willing to try new things. You have to seek new ways of doing things. How many of us are doing some things that we were doing last year? The same thing, same thing. I know y'all don't want to raise your hand, but it's happening. We should be doing new, better, quicker, faster things every single year. We shouldn't be doing the same thing the same way, using the same forms, the same processes, the same technology, because technology changes. Did y'all see the new Samsung Note 9? I got to get one. I mean, because I have an 8, but I got to get a 9, because the 9, you can use the S Pen and take pictures. Things are changing around us, and we should be changing. And the last piece is community engagement. If you are a leader at your college and the college family is not in the know on what's going on and they don't feel engaged, you will not move your institution the way that you should. So you've got internal engagement and external engagement. That's the communities that you serve. So we are spending a great amount of our time trying to make sure that our internal family is okay. And for a college president, it's a big feat. It's a big job, because most people feel like I'm going to be okay if I get more money. That's it. Give me a raise, I'm going to be happy. Well, I know people who get raises who ain't happy. It has to be more than just the raise. It has to be the feeling of being wanted, appreciated, valued, respected, regarded, that really builds that community. There's not one person at this institution that's not appreciated, whether they're facilities or security, or they're a dean, chair, provost, director, AVP. All roles are needed to make the college work. But I want to leave you with a few things. One, if a person is struggling and you see it, you need to do something about it. Instead of saying, well, I ain't getting in it, I see them over there. We have a lot of people who are struggling, and they take out those frustrations in different ways. You can't ignore that. If you find that a student is struggling, or you suspect that they're homeless or hungry or frustrated, talk to them. Don't assume because they are broke that they are dumb. Don't assume because they're hungry that they can't learn. Because I happen to believe that the folks who invested in my life took some good risks. I happen to believe that I wouldn't stand before you in this role had they not. I happen to believe that I can't take any credit for being a college president. It's all the other people who weighed in my life. Some were there for a reason, some were there for a season, but they were there. And so when you feel like, man, my job is this. No, your job is to change lives. That's your job. Nobody comes to your institution saying, I want to be broke. Nobody comes to your institution and say, I want to be uneducated, undereducated, and I don't want to have a nice home, and I don't want to live a good life. They're coming because they want things to change. They don't want their lives to stay the same. Don't leave them hanging. Can you imagine if I got left hanging? What do you think I'd be doing? Wouldn't be this. I didn't even really get to know my dad until I was like 18. Is he a bad guy? No. But he just wasn't there. We have a lot of Tonjas walking around on your campuses. You have a lot of Tonjas in your community. You got a lot of employees who are Tonja. I have employees who are hungry. I have some employees who are trying to find somewhere to stay. They may be paid more on the lower end of the pay scale. But you know what? They show up and they smile and they do their best every day. And those of us who have more will walk right past them and don't speak. How do you walk past a human and don't speak? You cannot create a community of care if you don't recognize, value, appreciate, and respect everybody. And so let's break this cycle today, right now. Don't wait till you get home. Start now. Break the cycle now. Be disruptive. Tear some stuff up. Do it differently. Do it better. Open your eyes. Stop trying to act like you don't see it. It's there. Stop being afraid to address the big elephant in the room. If your African American students aren't doing well and they're not engaged, fix it. If your male students aren't engaged, fix it. If the folks who are in your department aren't engaged, fix it. Fix it. You'll be happy, they'll be happy. But being a leader does not mean you run the show. It means that you facilitate the leadership process for everybody else to grow and be leaders. My biggest dream is to lead the institution with a strong team of leaders who aren't afraid to be transparent and tell folks that they've been evicted, they've been in food stamps, they've been hungry, they've struggled, they have a single family home, that they had problems, that they had issues. It's okay, I'm human. And I'm good with that, because everything I grew up with is what made me what I am today. That was my lot in life, and I'm not afraid of it, and I'm not embarrassed. But you know what happens? We get these PhDs behind our names, and we think we're highfalutin, high-powering, doctor. But at the end of the day, you're just a regular human being who happened to finish a degree. That's it. There are a lot of educated fools out there. And there are a lot of people with no education that will run circles around us. And so I'm hoping that when we talk about change and disrupting things and doing it differently, that we take that ownership and we say, I'm all in for change. I'm all in for helping people. I'm all in for addressing things that I see. And I'm all in for being courageous and not being afraid to say, yeah, this is good, but that's not. This is still a group. Oh, it's a small group. It's still a group. Because if that's a small group not doing well, nobody else from that group in that community is going to come to your school. They're going to say, oh, you treat all the green people this way, so we ain't coming. See, your students, that is your best recruitment strategy. And I'm going to leave you with one story. I was in TJ Maxx, and I think I told this to my team. And two students, well, I know they were students, women were talking about, yeah, I'm changing my college because, the people don't care about you. And then I was trying to get help, and they ain't listen to me. And, I'm frustrated, and I'm just doing this. Sliding over. And they're talking, yeah, girl, I called out there too. I had the same problem, and da-da-da-da-da. And so I'm like, well, gosh, ladies, what are you talking about? Oh, we talking about the college we in because it's just horrible. We've been trying this ain't happening, that's happening. I'm like, well, that's horrible. I said, well, here's my card. And she said, it's St. Pete College. I'm like, okay. And I talked to them about their experience. And we started working on many pieces of our experience to make sure students are well received and feel appreciated and valued. And it's hard. It's hard work. But sometimes you have to be willing to look at the yucky stuff to fix it. You can't keep ignoring it. And so I hope I've given you something that will help you be courageous, that will help you understand that good things happen to people with rough starts. Everybody doesn't come from the same background. Everybody doesn't come with the same thing, but the need to be wanted, appreciated, and valued is important. And we have to be okay being social workers. We have to be okay helping people with food and transportation. We have to be okay with that, because if you're at a community college, that's the population we're serving. We're not Yale. We're not Harvard. We don't get the 3 8s and the 4 O's. We get people with warm blood in their veins, a high school diploma or a GED, and they're in. But they also come with a dream. They come with the same dream that 4.0 at Stanford wants. Change in their life, improvement. Same thing. They just might have a little longer stride to take to get to that front line. How many of y'all in? Raise your hand. Who's in? Who's ready to do the work? Y'all look like y'all about to die. I'm serious. Y'all like, thank you. We have to be all in. When you go back to your college, don't play with this. Hit it hard. Do the work. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to hearing these sad stories. This is a sad story. You didn't even hear the rest of my story. Do I have a few minutes to tell one story? I'm going to tell y'all something about my grandma. I think I lived with my grandma until like the 3rd or 4th grade, and we used to ride a school bus home, and the bus driver, her name is Miss Flossie. And Miss Flossie said, and my grandmother's name was Fanny. And Miss Flossie said, Fanny, Tonjua shot me a birdie today. And I'm like, you know, showing attitude. And she was like, I know she ain't shoot a birdie. She's like, yes, she did. And I told her to sit down, and she wouldn't do it. And my grandmother scolded me, talking about why it's important to go to school and this and that. And she's telling me her story about she only went to the 7th grade. And, you know, she's giving me all of that. And I said, look, Grandma, you just a maid. And she gave me a look, and I'm like, okay. Thinking that I was going to get a whooping, because back then they didn't spare any of that. So she didn't. So we had, you know, dinner, and my cousin Bonita lived with us and her mom. And we were laughing. I'm like, Grandma getting old, she forgot. She ain't going to give me no whipping. So, you know, back then, the worst whipping to get is in the tub, because you can't run nowhere and you just slip slide in the water. So we were afraid to get it. I was like, I ain't getting in the tub. I'm telling you, because she going to get, but she didn't. That next morning, it was very dark, and she said, come on, they used to call me String Bean. I don't think I meet that criteria anymore, but she said, String Bean, come on, get up. I said, Grandma, it's still dark outside, and she goes, yeah, you're going to a different school today. And I'm like, well, what kind of school is that? So we rode the bus for what I felt as a child, a long way. And we got there, and kids came, hey, Miss Fanny, how you doing, Miss Fanny, and all that. And a woman came up and said, now, Fanny, who is this? And she goes, this is my granddaughter, Tonjua. She going to work here today. And I'm looking at her like, what? And my grandmother made me work all day with no food. She sat and watched what we call the stories, whatever they were called, yeah. And the kids were in the swimming pool having fun, and I'm feeling crazy because I'm cleaning up and I'm washing dishes and I'm doing this and that, and I thought she was the meanest person in the world, and I was just angry. And I don't really remember coming back home. She said I slept all the way back. And so that next day she said, that's what you gonna do if you don't shut your mouth, go to school, and pay attention. This is the job you get to do. She said, this is what this maid do for your, you know, she said some choice words to make sure I understood that. But what a lesson. What a lesson to learn. We don't give our kids enough of those lessons so they can understand, yes, I am a maid, but this is what this maid do for you. Now, if you don't want to be one, I suggest you go to school. I will never forget that. I will never, ever forget that. And I have so much respect now for people who do that work. And I did when I was a kid. I was like, Grandma, I never said it again. I'm so sorry. And she said, took all I had not to skin you alive. She said, but I want you to see what this is, because when you decide to do this again, I'm just going to take you out of school and you can just go to work. And I'm like, that's not going to happen. So, yeah, stand in the gap for folks. Be the gap filler. Be the one to help them across that bridge. Be the one to close that divide. Be the one to stand up on their behalf. Be the one to help them change their life. Because at some point in your life, you're going to cross their path again. And either you're a gap filler or a gap maker. Nobody got that. Let me say that one more time. Either you're going to fill that gap or you're going to make the gap and keep them from moving forward. They will remember you for either one of those. Either you'll be the one they talk about, I can't stand Dr. Williams. I tried to get some help from her, and she ain't tried me with nothing. She just treated me this way. Or you're going to be, I love her. I mean, she actually went and bought food out of her house for me. Or she went and did this. That's what we need to be doing. And so I hope you do come up with new ways to work with students and that you're not so rule-bound. I used to be one of those folks who could quote a rule in 10 seconds and tell you what page, what rule, how you could do it, and what you can't do. Now I'm a rule breaker. Say, well, who say we got to do that? But where's the federal guideline? Let me see it. Well, if it don't say that, we ain't got to do that. Because sometimes we got them made-up rules. Y'all saw the made-up rules? You know, the ones that they just been in your college forever. You like, well, who said we got? It's always we had to been. It was back then the state said, well, show me the rule. And you get the rule and it ain't in there. And you're like, so we've been treating these students this way all this time, and that's not even the way we're supposed to be doing it. And I can tell you, my team is starting to break rules. They're starting to question, well, we think we should do it this way. Well, we think we should. I'm like, okay, let's try it. If it's going to help a student and we're not going to jail for it, let's give it a try. Let's give it a try. Be disruptive. Be the change you want to be. Make it happen. Help change the lives of those students who are coming to you only to change their life. That's the only reason they're coming, because they want a better life. Stop being the gap filler. Stop being the gap maker. Be the gap filler. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Thank you for sharing so transparently your personal journey. I think it's a lesson to all of us how we can encourage those that in our sphere of influence. I shared earlier this morning that the first 3 years of this conference was all about how we changed our data culture. Dr. Williams is all about changing our culture through a community of care. And so thank you for helping us see students maybe through a different lens and seeing just beyond the data. So we really appreciate that. I'm going to share a slide. Here it is. I wasn't sure where to put this, but it seems appropriate that it's here. As I was doing the research for this topic, I shared a little bit this morning about the work that Amarillo College is doing. But here are some of the statistics that I found in the literature. 58,000 students are homeless. That's from the FAFSA. And the article that I read, the research that I read, this is probably way understated. It's probably much higher than this. The population of students most likely to experience food insecurity are single female households with children. In fact, 36.8% of that group of students has food insecurity. A lot of this research is from the Wisconsin Hope Lab, Sarah Goldrick-Rab, and others. And it's studies, so it may not be pervasive across the whole country, but I tell you that more and more studies are confirming that this is a bigger and bigger issue. A student is 15 times more likely that a student will fail a course if they are food insecure. This is going to sound like a petty example, but while Dr. Strayhorn was giving his keynote, I didn't eat breakfast this morning. I left. I got something, a snack bar, because my stomach really hurt, and I knew I had to come up here and keep the conference going. And imagine how our students that may go a day without eating must feel, and how difficult it is for them to concentrate and learn in our classrooms. This is from Sarah Goldrick-Rab's research. 36% of students are food insecure, and we're just looking at community college students in this particular research. The number jumps up to 42% are food insecure. Interestingly, only 17% of those that are food insecure reported using a food pantry. I'm not sure why that is. Maybe there's a stigma associated with going to a food pantry on campus. If there is, I think we've got to break down that wall, break down that stereotype, and break down that stigma. 29% of former foster youth surveyed were homeless while attending college. And 64% of food insecure students also experienced housing insecurity. So this is just, I think, 7 different statistics to illustrate the significance of the problem. As I said, the more research that's done, it just emphasizes how accurate this is and that the numbers are growing. So I think that we positioned this slide correctly because I think a lot of the sessions this afternoon and all day tomorrow are going to do a deeper dive into strategies on how to help students with food insecurity and housing insecurity. Okay? All right. I want to make a quick announcement. Again, we do have 2 concurrent sessions this afternoon. The next one starts at 3. We have the evening reception. You don't want to miss that at 5:30 in the conference room. I will just make this little bit of housekeeping. If you rented a car, or I'm sorry, if you did not rent a car, let's say you Ubered here, you can bring your luggage in the morning and we will safely store it, securely store it in one of our rooms, so you don't have to worry about that, okay? So I'm going to now dismiss you, and then your next concurrent session starts at 3 o'clock. Thank you very much.